Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West here, the Executive Director of the American Constitutional Rights Union, and welcome to this episode of Live Free TV. You know, there's been a lot of concern about the readiness of our United States military and their preparedness to go out and support and defend the Constitution, their mission. And one of the people that has stood up and brought to light the concerns that we should have about our readiness and the illogical focus of this Biden administration has been Senator Tommy Tuberville. Many people have criticized him for holding up these general officer promotions, but I've been a cheerleader for him for what he is doing because of the principles that he's standing upon. So Senator Tommy Tuberville was elected to the U.S. Senate in 2020 and is currently serving his first term representing Alabama. Many of us, to including myself, born and raised in Georgia and attended the University of Tennessee, still know him as Coach Tuberville following his 40-year career coaching college football. He spent 40 years in higher education as a college football coach, including stints as an assistant coach and defensive coordinator at the University of Miami and Texas A&M before being named the head coach at the University of Mississippi. And then later in 1998, he was named the head coach at Auburn University in Auburn, Alabama, where he coached for 11 years. During his time at Auburn University, he led the Auburn Tigers to 5 Western Division titles and 1 SEC championship, and was named the 2004 National Coach of the Year. After the 2016 season, Tuberville retired as one of the top 50 most winning football coaches of all times. Senator Tuberville was inspired to serve in Congress by his father, a World War II veteran, just as my dad was, and also a recipient of 5 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart, who instilled in him the values of patriotism, work ethic, and grit. Senator Tuberville has been called the common sense conservative, focusing on battling against government overreach, fighting for the unborn, and passionately supporting the nation's law enforcement and military. The senator lives in Auburn, Alabama with his wife, Suzanne, and they have 2 adult sons, Tucker and Troy. Senator Tuberville, welcome to Live Free TV. Thank you, sir.
Alan, great to be here.
It's fantastic to see you once again. And I have to get right to it. There's so much, I'd say, misinformation and disinformation about the stance that you're taking against these 315 general officer nominations. And I've told many people that 315 general officers is not going to impact the readiness of our military. But the position that you're taking is because Lloyd Austin is violating the Hyde Amendment, which means he's violating federal statute and law. Can you further elaborate on your position, your stances, and why don't we see more of your Republican conference getting behind you on this very highly principled stance you're taking?
Well, thanks for letting me talk about this, Alan. This is it's a very big topic for me. I'm pro-life, but I'm also an American. I love this country. You and I had a chance to spend a couple of days riding around on a bus in Georgia campaigning, and it's good to meet you and spend some time with you. And thank you for your service. But it's man, this place up here is it's a different place. I enjoy being here. Somebody asked me, do I like it? I don't really like it, but I'm glad I'm here. As you said in my introduction, common sense. There's not a lot of common sense up here, Alan. Up here, it's just hurry up and try to get something done. If it doesn't work, just go to something else. And what happened on this abortion policy in the military, in 1984, the Democrats and Joe Biden voted for the policy to be implemented, abortion policy in the military. So it's been, 35 years or so? And it's gone great. There's been not one complaint about it. It's abortion only for rape, incest, and harm to the mom. So after Roe Wade went down of June of last year, we started hearing they're going to start changing all the abortion rules in the federal government, because when they kicked it, the Supreme Court kicked it down to the states. They said, we can't control the states, but we can control federal employees. So they put abortion for the first time ever in the VA. I fought that. I lost. It actually went to a vote on the floor. I lost that vote. Then they come out and said, we're going to change the policy in the military. And I called Secretary of Defense Austin. I said, listen, I want a briefing on this. It took forever to get a briefing. And finally, they come over and briefed. And I said, wait a minute, you can't do this the way you're going to do it. I mean, this is a law. You don't legislate from the Pentagon and the White House. We are elected to do that. we are supposed to be the ones to vote on this. This is a controversial topic. Abortion, probably the most controversial topic in your and my lifetime
Mhm.
here in the United States. And I said, people in Alabama deserve to get to vote on this. So if you do this, if you put this policy through where basically it's paying for abortion travel, 3 weeks off, also the dependents of the military personnel can have abortions, it's going to cost a fortune. And
Yeah.
the American taxpayers don't deserve to have to pay for that. So at the end of the day, they put this policy in with just a memo without voting on it. I'm holding up now for almost 9 months. They're admirals and generals, and of course they're coming at me from every direction, saying I'm holding up readiness and all that. There's
Mhm.
not one of these jobs that's unfilled. Everybody's doing their
Mhm.
job. I mean, it's the military force, and again, it's just something that this administration has tried to jam down our throat.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing to me, having served 22 years in the military, whereby if you are deployed into a combat zone, you don't get to take leave to come back for the birth of your child. To me, that's a complete flip of this thing. I thought we were supposed to want to see the growth of military families. But yet, if I were to take leave to want to go back and see a sick relative, I would be charged for that leave, and I would not have any of the expenses incurred in that travel paid back to me. And that's exactly what Lloyd Austin, who I remember serving with at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, has done through, he's taken your legislative power away from you. Why can't your colleagues understand that and stand up and say, you don't have that right as the Secretary of Defense? You don't have that right as a government bureaucrat and agency to usurp the legislative powers of the House of Representatives and the United States Senate.
Well, most of the Republicans have fell in with me. Now, this is a
Mhm.
controversial topic, and a lot of elected officials, I call them elected because everybody, all they try to do up here is get reelected. They're all afraid they might lose a vote,
Yeah.
and so I don't have full complement of Republicans on my side uh, verbally, where they just out beating the bushes.
Yeah.
All Democrats, of course, they all fall in lockstep on everything that they do. But you got to really appreciate the Republicans, because most Republicans vote for their constituents,
Hmm.
not for their ideology. And
Hmm.
so, we're going to continue to fight this, Alan. They keep push me hard. "Oh, you got to change this," and I've been called to the floor. I think 14 times now that they've challenged me. I have to get up and defend my position on the floor of the Senate, which I have no problem with.
Yeah.
Hey, these people up here again, they're up here. Uh, they've got an ideology on abortion that to me is not very moral and disgusting at times, to hear what's going on in some of these abortion clinics. I
Hmm.
can't believe that we even have this topic of conversation, but it's what it is. Uh, my wife said they don't know how hard headed you are, and they think you're going to give in. And of course, it's been 9 months. So, hey, we'll go
Yeah.
9 years. It makes me no difference. I'm not
Yeah.
changed my mind. Now, I will say this, Alan. They can take individually and confirm these nominees. I'm just holding up
Absolutely.
one group at a time. Two or
Yes.
300. They can do one at a time. But Schumer, he's trying to prove a point. I'm not going to do one at a time. It takes 2 hours to confirm one on the floor. 2 hours,
Hmm.
all it
Hmm.
takes. And we've already had like 150 recess days this year. We don't do
Hmm.
anything up here. This is a waste of taxpayers' money. We need to lock the doors and go home if we're not going to work. It's just absolutely amazing what we do up here.
Now you bring up a great point, and I want to just give you further ammunition, because you're talking about 314 2, 3, 4-star general officers. I don't remember anyone being upset about military readiness when they were talking about kicking tens of thousands of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and some very highly specialized and trained members of our special operations forces, because they refused to follow the illegal, immoral, unethical, and unconstitutional order to get that emergency use authorization shot injected into their bodies. And we found that many of them that did, they ended up having severe medical ramifications. All you have to do is look at the VAERS report. So I would tell you that that was more of a dent in the military readiness than it is 314 generals, which you just articulated. They could vote for them one at a time. which is what you just did with the recent nominee and now confirmed chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Charles Q. Brown. And I saw, and I applaud you once again for voting against General Brown, because to me, he was like Al Sharpton in a military uniform with stars on his shoulders. What was it that I guess some of our colleagues up there could not understand the danger of this individual coming in as the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff?
Well, you'd have to be here, Alan, to see what goes on. Again, if it doesn't affect them immediately, they don't want a controversial vote. Obviously, we've had African American as a Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman in Powell, and so. But I don't look at, I coach for a living. Okay, 80% of the kids I coach were minority. I never saw color, and I don't look at color up here. But CQ Brown was making all kind of statements about we need more black pilots, we need more diversity, religious for diversity, trans. Wait a minute. I mean, the military is not an equal opportunity employer. I mean, when I was growing up, if you had flat feet, you had a tough time getting in the military.
You couldn't get in. You couldn't get in.
Unbelievable. And so now, they're pushing everything. They want to. They don't want to do anything on merit. We're ruining our military because we don't teach responsibility. We don't teach the things that made our military strong. We're degrading our military. And now, when you want to come around and say, "Listen, I want more pilots," well, I don't care who they are.
Yeah,
I really don't. I want the best, because there's no second place in war, Alan. You know that there's no second place. You either win or you lose. And we live in a dangerous world. Probably the most dangerous that in my lifetime, when people have got their thumb on those buttons that could really do a lot of damage to every place across this world. And it just scares me that we're getting into this part now with Israel, and those people don't care where they live or die, and that's when you really got problems. So it's listen, CQ Brown's a good guy. That's fine. But good guys, I want people that's going to run the military. And of course, he's not running the military. He just gives advice to the president. But he also has the ear of somebody that can control the military and make sure we have a strong military across this country.
You spent, 4 decades or so as a college football coach. I mean, an incredible record, well known, well respected. When you think about how you were prepared for that college football Saturday and you develop your strategies, what do you see that is so lacking up there? Because you're right. It just seems to those of us on the outside, and I was in the House of Representatives, that there is no strategy, that there is no plan. It's just, pretty much so day to day. And they seem to be rewarded for doing the minimum amount instead of trying to do the maximum.
Yeah, it's how much money you can raise up here, Alan. You know that. It's how much money you can raise, because you got to get TV ads, or you got to help other people get elected and keep majorities. And it's really more about leadership up here than it is about the everyday senator or everyday congressman. And I came up here to represent the people of Alabama, and that's what I do every day. If I vote on something, it's not going to be because of what I think. It's what I think that the people of Alabama would like me to vote. And sometimes we even poll that. So it's important to me that we understand we live in and on the greatest country ever. But I'm going to tell you, the things that I've seen in the last 3 years, and what this administration and what this Senate and what that House has done over there to this country is embarrassing. What happened at the border, the crime, the inflation, doing away with fossil fuels, our foreign relations, it is a disaster up here. But nobody seems to be concerned. As I said earlier, we come up here on basically Tuesday and go home on Thursday. Yeah. I mean, and we don't even have a budget yet. Our budget is due, and it's already been due. We kicked the can down the road for 45 days. You can't put a budget together in 45 days. You need months to do it. We've been working a little here. I don't know what they're doing in the House, but I mean, it's a joke. It's really a joke.
You just brought up the situation over in the Middle East with Israel and Hamas and our foreign policy. We just saw President Biden go over there, and first and foremost, he referred to Hamas as the other team. I don't think this is a college football Saturday, much the same as Obama referred to ISIS as the JV team. This is an Islamic terrorist group. What type of condemnations or resolutions, what type of actions do you think we can expect coming out of the Senate to take a firm stance and maybe get senators on record against Hamas and the incredible, heinous, and savage attack of October the 7th?
Well, there's a fight up here right now, Alan, on two different things. Obviously, we've got huge problems in our country. The border's number one. I think our number one problem. Maybe even more than the wars going on. But Ukraine over there, I've not gotten involved with that. I haven't voted for one dime to go to Ukraine. They can't win. They're a junior high team playing a college team. We actually forced this war to happen because we were pushing Ukraine into NATO, and Putin says, "No, you're not going to do that." Well, Putin's a killer. I know that, but Russia's changed. They're not the old USSR. This is different now with Israel. Israel is our ally. There are people that they would stand up for us if we had huge problems. They've always had problems. They live in a glass bowl with everybody around them that basically hates them. And this group that went in and just butchered men, women, and children last week, they don't care about life. They really don't. They just most of them are not educated. They don't have anything to live for. And here you got Israel trying to have a country to have people that embrace families and their culture and all that. But Biden goes on there, and it was probably good he went, but he didn't make a lot of progress over there. Tony Blinken went to Secretary of State, and I know he was in a meeting for 5 hours trying to convince the Israelis that, hey, you got to ease up on what's going over in Gaza. We got to give them more aid. We got to give them water. We got to give them food. Wait a minute, this is a war. And now Biden says he's going to give $100 million. Are you kidding me? It's just going to go straight to Hamas. And he's just trying to play the fence, Alan. That's all the Democrats do. They play the fence. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Let me tell you, war is not a feeling job to me. And I've never done that. You've been involved in it. But let me tell you, this is not as you said, this is not a game. This is serious business here that could really branch out to a lot of other areas. And you got to remember this: Iran is a tree in the Middle East. The branches that come off that tree are Hamas and Hezbollah. They're just branches of the bigger problem, which is Iran. And of course, Joe Biden's given them $80 billion with dropping sanctions. He's given $6 billion on some other foolishness. And what do you think they're doing with that money? They're building a war machine.
Yeah, absolutely right. And now we have reports, and some confirm that some of the $82 billion that we left in Afghanistan of military weaponry and equipment has found their way into the Gaza Strip and being used by Hamas. Last question I want to ask you before we have a little fun question. You talk about the border. Do you have big concerns when you see how Israel lost the operational control of their border? When you look at how we are intentionally and purposefully losing operational control of our border, the amount of single military age males that are coming to this country, millions of quote unquote gotaways. Do you have a concern that we have these terrorist cells that are ready to operate here in the United States?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say this: the next couple of days, we'll have a briefing. I'm on Armed Service Committee, and we'll have the CIA director and the NSA director and Blinken and the Secretary of Defense. We'll all have an opportunity to listen to what's going on over there. First of all, what I want to know is we give billions of dollars, Alan, you know this, billions of dollars to our information groups like the CIA, the NSA. What the heck? Did we not know that this was not going to happen? We had a major failure. And I tell you, if I'd been president of the United States, the NSA director and the CIA director would have been in my office that day going, you better have a great excuse for this, or if you don't, you're gone. I mean, because this got many people killed, could start a world war. Now, the same thing, Biden should have got up the same day that they woke him up out of his sleep. And after, my understanding is he slept 6 hours past the beginning of this invasion. And they finally told him about it. When he got up and learned about this, he should, let's call up the troops in the country, activate as many as we can, get them to the border, shut it down. shut it completely down. Nobody comes across. We are in trouble, Alan. We got people
Mhm.
all over this country that we don't know where they're at, who they are. And you know as well as I do, we probably got, I don't know, I'm not going to guess here, thousands of terrorists. Now, they might not be as dangerous as some others, but we've got groups here that are going to do damage to the United States and the citizens of this country. And that's the number one job of the President of the United States,
Mhm.
protect the citizens here. But we don't do that.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that we have lost that sense of sovereignty and control of our borders, and that we're allowing so many people to come into this country, and we lose contact and control of them. So, last question I want to ask you, maybe a little fun question as we close out this interview. And again, thank you so very much, Senator, for taking the time to chat with me. Who is your surprise college football team of this 2023 season?
I'd probably say Washington.
Mm.
And I keep up with it. All across the
Hmm.
country. I'm talking about somebody that's going to have a chance to win the national championship. That was a
Hmm.
huge game last week with
Yes.
undefeated Washington versus undefeated Oregon. That's very unusual, a Pac-12 team. But for some reason, we're down a little bit this year in the SEC.
Hmm.
I think Michigan and Ohio State's good. But I would say if we're picking a team that just came from nowhere and they got a quarterback that will probably win the Heisman Trophy, I think they've got a real good chance. They got a tough schedule, but again, I don't know whether they can beat a SEC team in the playoffs that's got a real tough defense.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And I think that makes it fun to have more diversity in the playoffs.
But it's diversity that is earned. It's not diversity that is just granted by ideology. Uh, Last thing, what would you like to say to the people that are watching this program, and especially to the people down in Alabama, your constituents?
Well, we're trying hard up here in their Senate seat. Again, I'm not very well liked in some areas, including the Republican, because I'm not a go along to get along. I want to help the American people. Again, I love this country. And as you said earlier, my dad, he actually died on active duty. And the one thing I missed was being in the military. The Vietnam War stopped. And so I didn't get in the military. I got in coaching. This is my giving back to the country of serving up here in Washington, D.C. But we got a great place, but we have got to fight in this election coming up, Alan. People don't realize we have got to win the Senate. This is the only chance we have in probably the next 12 years to win the Senate back, because the map's not very good the other two terms.
Mhm.
But we have to get power in the White House. I didn't realize when you come up here how much power that the President of the United States has. And we got to get somebody in there that's got some nerve, that understands this country, but loves this country and doesn't want it to go south like it's going as we speak.
Well, I will tell you, Senator, that if the Republicans do win back the majority in the Senate, I would love to see you run for leadership position there in the Senate, because we just need a good old tough SEC football coach to get that body back on track. And maybe you need to bring them out for some 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning drills.
Well, hey, I'd love to do that. I'd whip them in shape real quick.
I know you would. Well, Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, thank you so very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us here on Live Free TV. And you got me in your corner, because you are truly a person that loves this country, and you stand up for our good, strong, constitutional, conservative principles and values.
Thank you. God
Thank you,
bless.
sir. God be with you.